Gorgeous divine women, welcome to episode 2 of the Abstract Baddie podcast. I am your host, Dr. Alexandra Olinsky, CEO of Empower Human Potential LLC, an executive coaching, leadership development, and corporate training organization. Today, we are going to continue our topic on becoming a secure woman and what does that mean. So we'll kind of start with our emotional grounding and our affirmation. So let's take a minute to kind of just stillness, center, balance, focus, peace. Breathe in, breathe out. Okay, gorgeous. So today's affirmations. I am a secure woman. I am worthy. I don't give people the power to reject me. I do not allow disrespect. I am in control of my emotions. I am brave. I am allowed to be myself. I am allowed to make mistakes. I am powerful. I am confident. I am in control of my life. Men love and adore me. I have a gazillion friends. I am a sprightly, effervescent woman. I am at peace and happy. I live with intention of purpose. My pain is melting away. I am healed. I am happy. I am secure. So on our topic of becoming a secure woman and what that means is, so in this episode, so episode 1, we kind of got to step 1 and step 2. So step 1 is really just to understand and recognize yourself for who you are, the experiences you've had, and the emotions that you've experienced your whole life. Really recognize and understand those emotions in childhood and what your securities are and where they come from. Step 2 is just this idea of reflection, right? Really sitting in this, like, what are my insecurities? Like, write them down on paper, identify them. Where do they come from? How did they originate? And then step 3, what can I do? How can I better myself? How can I make myself more competent? You know, they say that knowledge is power. Knowledge really is power. Knowledge will make you so unbelievably powerful because when you are a competent individual, you naturally become a confident individual. People ask me all the time, well, why are you so confident? Well, I study so much. I read incessantly. I take certification after certification. I'm constantly building my vocabulary. I'm constantly making connections. I'm constantly learning from other people. I'm constantly allowing myself to experience things. You know, you have to understand that life is meant to be lived. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And good and bad are going to happen to you. You just have to accept it. You have to embrace it. You have to embrace what comes your way and understand that it's a tool. It's a tool for it's a growth catalyst. And so step 3 is really kind of understanding the different courses of action that you can take to become a secure woman. Now, one thing I want you to understand is that it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen overnight. Healing is a very long process, and it really is personal to you. So it may take the person A 6 months to heal. It could take person B 2 years to heal. It could take person C 25 years to heal. Okay? You can't really put a time limit on it. You just have to let things unfold. Like for me, I'm still healing. And I grow stronger every day, and I take more command over my thoughts and my emotions and my beliefs every day. And when you become an adult, you're no longer a kid. So what I mean by that is, as an adult, you are now an individual. So you were raised the way that you were raised. You were taught the things that you were taught by your parents. So that could be maybe religious beliefs, maybe just beliefs in general, maybe values, maybe traditions, maybe instructions, maybe it's the way women ought to be or men ought to be. Maybe you were raised as a girl or a boy and not a human being, whatever the case may be, is you were raised with a certain thing. So those beliefs, those early teachings, that instruction is in your head, right? And you have to stop and ask yourself, these things I was taught, do I actually believe these things? Or do I believe these things because my parents or my primary caregivers believe these things, right? And when I was talking about reparenting in the last episode, it's a topic I'm going to keep talking about. You have to understand that you get to choose. So many of my clients do not feel like they have any power or control or jurisdiction over themselves. What I see an adult, whether the adult is, 20, 30, 40, 50, or 60, who has no self-governance. So that means that everybody and everybody else influences and controls them. So here you are, okay, this is you, an individual, and all these other people, society, influences, right, they all come in and they kind of fill your mind with how you should act, how you should behave, what you should believe, what you should do, what you should not do, what you must do, what you mustn't do, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. And all of a sudden you feel like you're not even a human being anymore. You feel like you're not living for yourself, but you're living for other people. And this is why people live for mom and dad's approval. Screw mom and dad's approval. And this is what I want you to understand, the difference here of internal versus external validation. As human beings, we need each other. We do. We need each other. But you have to keep people enough at arm's length so that they don't take over and influence you completely, right? Because suggestion is very powerful. So you kind of want to take everything people say with a grain of salt. Take it in, conceptualize it, understand it, appreciate it, and respect it, but you don't have to internalize it. So with internal versus external validation, to a greater or lesser degree, we're all chasing external validation, right? We all love compliments. We all want to know that we're enough. We all want to know that other people approve of us, like us, appreciate us. But the problem with external validation, it's something that we're chasing. And if there's anything that you're chasing, you're never going to catch it. If there's something that you're chasing or someone that you're chasing, you're never going to catch it. The idea is to evolve and grow, not to chase. So with external validation, we chase it, and then we get in trouble because when you chase external validation, guess what happens? It runs away from you. Anything you chase runs away. So what I've come to learn and understand is that external validation is just a bonus. It's just a bonus, that's it. It doesn't mean anything, it's just a bonus. So when you get it, is that it's a bonus. But here's the funny thing. So when you stop chasing external validation, when you stop, you're going to receive more of it than if you were chasing it, okay? So if you're chasing it, you're not going to receive anything, or maybe very little. But if you stop chasing it altogether, you're going to receive more of it. So you're actually going to get what you want by doing reverse psychology. So internal validation. So this is why it is absolutely critical, paramount, that you validate internally, that you learn how to validate internally. So this is when I said about reparenting, becoming your own parent, establishing your own thoughts, beliefs, ideas, emotions separate from your parents. You have to pull yourself apart. You have to detach. And become your own entity, the self-governance. And that is when you validate internally, and you start to validate internally, you're going to notice that you're going to get more external validation. All I do is validate internally, and people validate me left and right, and it's like, I wasn't even asking for this. It's great. But it's just a bonus. It's just a bonus because what they think of me, whether positive or negative, it doesn't really matter at all because it only matters what I think of myself. It only matters what I think about myself. Okay? So this is why self-love is so important, because so many children, to a greater or lesser degree, were told as children that you are unlovable. And, here's what I want to understand, guys. Your parents are not bad people. They're not ill-intentioned people. They don't hate you. They don't. Parents have very good intentions. They do. Parents actually do have good intentions. The problem is trauma, right? Trauma gets involved, and then all of a sudden, things... So what I mean by that is a lot of us received obligatory or surface level love. Yes, your parents did love you, of course. You're the apple of their eye. But you didn't feel the love. You didn't feel the love because it was not given to you in the way that you needed it to be given to you. Maybe it was inconsistent. Maybe it was surface level. Maybe it was obligatory. Like, it wasn't that real, authentic, genuine. I'm seen, I'm heard, I'm validated, I'm appreciated, I'm approved. You know, and here's what bothers me so much. This just eats at my core. Children are raised to be perfect and not human beings. Doesn't that make you sad? Children are raised to be perfect and not human beings. Because as children, we are taught and instructed with the right way. Be a good little girl. Be a good little boy. Close your mouth. Don't say anything. Sit still. Act pretty, right? Don't swear. Don't run around and be crazy. Don't be a child, right? And if you do those things, you are punished for it. Like, we're all raised to be perfect. We have so many perfectionists out there who are absolutely destroying themselves because they're a perfectionist and they have to be perfect or else they're going to face punishment and rejection and disapproval. And they're not human beings, they're robots. Listen, you're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to sin. You don't have to be perfect. You're human. Life is not perfect. Life is painful. You know, stop the facade. Get off social media. Be a real human being, for crying out loud. And we wonder why we suffer so bad. We wonder why we take pills. We wonder why we lay on the therapist's couch. We wonder why we're on antidepressants for 50 years. Because we don't actually solve problems, we perpetuate them. Guys, I'm getting deep here because I want you to understand this stuff that eats at so many of us. So security, all right, here, it's a journey. It's a decision. You choose to become a secure human being. You have to understand, this is a decision. This is a logical, not an emotional decision. You are choosing to become a secure human being. And when you make that choice, when you make that jump, you have to think to yourself, how would a secure person think? How would a secure person feel? What would a secure person say? How would a secure person act? How would a secure person handle this problem? How would a secure person interact with this person? How would a secure person respond to a situation or problem? Because a lot of us are reactionary. Why are we reactionary? Trauma, perfectionism, punishment, unworthiness. All right? It's a process. And you have to be, here's step 4, guys. You have to be patient with yourself. You have to give yourself grace. You have to give yourself mercy. You have to just center yourself, balance yourself, self-compassion, self-love, self-worthiness. You know, you choose to be unworthy or worthy. I'm going to say that again. You choose to be unworthy or worthy. That means you must operate from a place of worthiness and not worriedness, not unworthiness. You must operate from a place of worthiness. You know, you see, with my little story of the ex-boyfriend, I was operating from a place of worriedness and woundedness. So when I was around this man who showed a lot of physical and emotional interest in me, he was attracted to me, he was invested in me, he took me out, we had a good time together, he was good at, you know, there wasn't anything wrong with him. Well, I mean, sure, he had his own issues, but that's not the focus here. The focus here is my issues. But, you know, the problem is that when I was in his presence and I was nervous and I was scared and I was afraid he was going to break up with me, I was acting from a place of unworthiness. I was acting from a place of woundedness. I was acting from a place of worriedness. And guess what happened? It all became a self-fulfilling prophecy because the man broke up with me. He rejected me. And you know what's interesting? That was the last time I've ever been rejected. That was the last time I'll ever be rejected. I'll never be rejected again. Because I don't operate from a place of worriedness. I don't operate from a place of woundedness. I don't operate from a place of unworthiness. I operate from a place of worthiness because I am a secure human being. I am a worthy human being. Guys, it doesn't matter what has happened to you. It doesn't matter what has happened to you as a child. It doesn't matter all the trauma and the bullshit and the bad shit and the tragedies and the catastrophes that you've been through. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make you an unworthy human being. It doesn't make you bad. We are all the same. We are all the same. Stop putting certain people on a pedestal and other certain people below you. Stop thinking there's people out there better than you and people out there below you. Stop it. What's wrong with you? We're all the same. Doesn't matter status, background, belief systems. That's bullshit. It doesn't matter. It's just stuff. It's just distractions. Look at inside. What's going on in here? All you have is your emotional world. You know, let's go back to that timeline, all right? You're born here, you die over here. What's in the middle is all that's given you. This is all the time you have is here in the middle. And you're journeying and you're progressing through this process. And you're supposed to do two things. You're supposed to experience life because everything is an experience, so focus on that, focus on the journey. And secondly, you're here for a purpose. Now, we're not going to talk about purpose today because we don't have enough time, but we will talk about that down the road because everything that I teach you and everything that I talk about is going to start building on each other. And why I chose this topic first is because this is fundamental right here. This is talking about your inner child, okay? So security, again, if I repeat things, it's because they're very important. Security is a choice, okay? It's a decision that you make. It's a switch. It's the light bulb going off, okay? That's what needs to happen. Again, this does apply to men and women, even though my podcast here is specifically for women. But I want you to understand this because, see, the other thing that scares the crap out of me is that people are raised as a gender and not a human being. That scares me because you got men over here being men and you got women over here being men, and there's division and fighting and nobody's seeing eye to eye and nobody's on the same page. And that's because, well, none of us are raised as human beings. We're raised as genders. I'm talking about the human being right now. No, women don't just do this. Men don't just do that. There's no such thing as feminine, masculine. We're all fluid. You're masculine and you're feminine. Masculine, femininity are just qualities. They're human qualities, not masculine, feminine qualities. They're qualities. It's what makes a person a whole human being. And then, see, that's the thing, guys, is that your job, this timeline, right, birth to death, your job is to learn how to become a full human being. Yeah, it's an experience. Yeah, you're here for a purpose. But what I'm talking about is that your job is to learn how to become a full human being, and that's what I'm going to be teaching you throughout this series, is how to become a whole full human being, how to become a worthy human being, how to become a secure human being. And I want you to understand that the breakup with that man, I want you to understand that I loved him. I don't even know why I loved him. I just loved him so much. And our relationship, at least to me, I can't speak for him, but our relationship to me was so exciting. I would get so happy. I would feel such a high, a peace, whatever you want to call it, going over there. And it was absolute nirvana. It was heaven on earth. And I was so high, right? I was up here. I was elated. I was ecstatic. And that breakup, it just crashed. And see, think of a flame, right? A spark. The flame, it's burning, it's burning, it's burning. The candle's burning, burning, burning. You blow it out, it's done. He never talked to me again. But he was one of the best things that ever happened to me. Not because we had this amazing romantic relationship. No, because he forced me to become a secure human being. And what's that worth? That's freaking worth trillions, billions of dollars. Because you know how many people out there are really secure? Hardly anybody. Hardly anybody. Like, if you look at all the people in the world, okay, I don't have a hardcore statistic, so for you, I'm not going to give you that, but there are secure people out there. Yes. There are secure people out there, but most of us are insecure. And you can actually tap into people's insecurities. I'm not going to get into how to do that today, but there's a way, psychological way to tap in and discover what they are. But it's one of those things where it teaches on, like, you have to understand yourself. You have to look inside and say, okay, what am I struggling with? What exactly am I suffering with? Because, see, and as women specifically, and guys too, but we all just want to be loved, right? We all just want to be loved. Like rejection is one of the worst kinds of pain in the world, because rejection says, I don't love you, you are unlovable. That's what rejection means. I don't love you, you're unlovable. Well, did you really reject me, or did I give you the power to reject me? See, I gave him, boyfriend, we're going to call him boyfriend for the sake of this conversation, I gave boyfriend the power to reject me. And so he did. Like, I literally handed the power over to him. And it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. When is the light bulb going to go off, guys? Like, when are you going to stop the self-sabotage and the self-defeat and the unworthiness and the I am not good enough and I am not lovable and nobody loves me? When are you going to stop being a glutton for punishment? Never? This is the most important lesson that you can ever learn. Like, this is what has miraculously changed my life, because now this didn't even happen that long ago, but my whole life is different. I have more love than I ever prayed for. I have more attention than I ever wanted. My business is doing well. My family is thriving. I have more friends than I know what to do with. I have opportunities coming at me left and right. My whole life changed, because I have become a magnetic force that is no longer chasing, but rather attracting. And so you have to give yourself this sense of grace and this sense of compassion, and allow yourself to be unperfect, and allow yourself to really and truly go through this process of healing, because it's going to require a significant amount of healing. So the next topic that we're going to begin to transition into, but it's very relatable, is on emotion, our emotional world, emotional control, emotional mastery, and emotional grounding. Now, emotions are very interesting because we all have them. Emotions is what makes us human beings, okay? If you don't have emotions, you're not a human being. So you have to understand that your emotional world makes up like 90% or more of your life. It's huge, because most of the decisions we make are based on emotion rather than logic, and it should be the reverse. We should make our decisions based on logic and not emotion. So what I really want you to do is kind of, again, go back to the center, take a pause, take a breath, and really start to think in terms of me, or yourself, think in terms of yourself and your emotional world and what it is comprised of, right? All the good, the bad, and the ugly. So when you think of emotions, you have to think of emotions, again, on a spectrum, right? There's all the good emotions over here, like all the emotions people want to have. Like a very common emotion that people want to have is happiness. So we'll just put that in the very, very good, far left side. I think it's you guys' left, so far left side. And then on the far right side, the other end is like the very, very bad emotions, like, anger and sadness and frustration, right? And then there's kind of like everything in between. Well, the emotion that's kind of right in the middle of both the high and the low is, stability or tranquility or peace. And so when people say, oh, I'm pursuing happiness or I'm chasing happiness, it's like, why? Happiness is an emotion. You can't acquire happiness, but you can acquire peace. So you should be chasing peace, not happiness, okay? So for the sake of simplicity, when I talk about this emotional spectrum, I'm going to use what I call heaven states. So heaven states are over here. The heaven states is ecstasy, being very, very happy, being elated, being very empowered. Then you have your hell states, right? Anger, frustration, misery, sadness, depression, fear, whatever. Okay, those are your hell states, and there's everything in between. Well, right in the middle, this peace that I'm talking about, this stillness, this tranquility, is what I call purgatory. And so your whole life from beginning to end is going to be comprised, it's going to be an amalgamation of emotion, right? Good emotions, bad emotions, high emotions, low emotions, and more neutral emotions. So when I talk about, think about your emotional world, I want you to kind of place yourself at this spectrum and really start to identify the highs, the lows, the places of more centered and stableness. And I want you to kind of understand, like, am I sitting more in hell most of the time? Am I sitting more in heaven most of the time? Or do I hang out in purgatory most often? So for me, and I'll kind of share this with you, I hang out in purgatory most often. And I'm going to tell you why that's so paramount. So everybody wants to be in heaven. Like, that's just a no-brainer, because here's the thing you got to think of. As humans, we chase pleasure and we run away from pain. Okay, I'm going to say this again. As humans, we chase pleasure and we run away from pain. So when we're chasing pleasure, whatever pleasure it may be, it could be love, sex, relationships, drugs, shopping, addictions, going out and doing fun things. It doesn't matter what it is, but so you're when I say you're chasing pleasure, it's all about the emotion that you want to feel. Okay, this is a deep concept. So we're not really chasing things or people necessarily, we're chasing emotions. So if you're chasing pleasure, that means you're chasing pleasurable emotions. If you're running away from pain, that means you're running away from painful emotions. So we all do this because the truth is, guys, that nobody wants to feel bad, right? Nobody wants to be in hell. Nobody wants to be lousy. Like, you know what I mean? We don't want to be a glutton for punishment. So we want to go into heaven, but here's the problem. These heaven states or high states, they don't last forever. That's why we're always chasing them like an addiction. It's a dopamine rush. So when you are in heaven or you have these heaven highs, is that what happens after a heaven high? You crash. So you go from being in heaven all the way, you're catapulted back into hell. And I call hell the abyss of misery. So you're in heaven, then you get catapulted, thrown back into the abyss of misery. So what is the solution? Purgatory. Purgatory is the solution. So for me, I spend 90% of my life in purgatory. What does that mean? Well, I'm human. So I'm human. I love to be in heaven. I want to be in heaven. I chase pleasure. So, and I do, trust me, I have plenty of heaven states. There's so many things that happen in my life that get me excited, get me elated, get me high. And I live for those moments, right? Those are moments, those are experiences. I live for those moments. Like when I was dating boyfriend, I was in, heaven all the time. I was totally living for that experience, that moment. Now, because I'm also human, I experience many hell states. My hell states tend to come in the evening when I'm, alone and the workday is done, and the negative thoughts start to, get shoved into my head in the evening. So then that tends to be where I'm in when I'm in hell. But really, this idea here of purgatory and centeredness is that it doesn't matter if you're in heaven or hell. The idea is that you want to get back into purgatory as quickly as possible. Okay, so if you're in heaven, for example, enjoy it. Okay, enjoy your time. Get the most out of it. But instead of being catapulted back into hell, which is what naturally happens, right? Like something really, really good happens to you, and then there's like a letdown period afterwards. There's a crash. So instead of going from heaven, to hell, which would be bad, you want to go from heaven and then centered into purgatory. So it's almost like you're up here, you're kind of bringing yourself down a few notches back to that stability point. And then if you're in hell, you want to pull yourself out of hell, pull yourself out of the abyss of misery enough to at least get yourself back into this purgatory state. So you want to spend, think of it like 90% of your life or the majority of your life in purgatory, allowing yourself to experience heaven. I'm not saying don't experience pleasure. Yeah, experience pleasure. Have all the pleasure you want. But more importantly, don't stay over here. Don't stew in anger. Don't stew in frustration. Don't stew in misery. You need to ground yourself. So, the first episode I talked about my Zen room here. I'm in the Zen room like every day because this is my place of emotional grounding, emotional mastery. Because you got to understand, guys, that you are in control of your life. A person who is in control of, let me slow down. A person who is in control of his life can have anything they want. I'm going to say that again. A person who is in control of their life can have anything that they want. Listen, I wasn't born with money. I wasn't born with opportunity. Okay, I wasn't spoon-fed. I didn't have luxuries. I didn't have everything I've ever wanted. I went and got everything I wanted, and now I have it. Why? Because I took ownership. I realize this is my one and only life, and I can create it any way that I want. And that's the gift that I'm going to be giving to you. I'm going to show you guys these different tools, techniques, learning experience, topics of how to really magnetize, monetize, and acquire all these things you actually want for yourself, because you deserve it. You actually deserve it. You deserve to live a good life. You deserve to have the things you want. You deserve to be happy. You have to understand, when we talked about worthiness earlier, I deserve these things. Most of you believe you don't deserve good things. Most of you believe that, oh, I'm a bad person, or I don't deserve this, or I did this or that, or I made these mistakes. So screw that. You learn from mistakes. That's why you make mistakes, you can learn from them. It's okay. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be a perfectionist. I know you were raised that way, but it's okay. This is deep stuff, you guys. And so Zen, right? Back to purgatory, back to peace. Now, today's not on peace. This topic's not on peace, but when we talk about emotional mastery, I want you to understand that you do have the power and control over your thoughts and your emotions, because thoughts, okay, let's start there. Thoughts create emotions. thoughts create emotions. Okay, emotions come from a place. They come from the way that you think, the way that you perceive, the way that you understand the world, right? And so you might say, well, Dr. E, how do I get to this place of emotional grounding? Well, guys, it takes discipline. So I'm going to introduce you to something I call an emotional exorcism. Okay, I'm going to introduce you to my emotional exorcism. So, we all experience hell, right? Nobody wants to be in hell. And an emotional exorcism means that you allow yourself to feel bad emotions and to actually let them out. So if you're feeling a bad emotion, instead of suppressing it, which is what a lot of people do, you have to allow yourself to actually experience it and go through that emotion and really release it. Like you're purging that, think of it this way, you're purging your emotion out of your body. So let me give you a visual. And I've done this a few times. So when you're allowed to have as many emotional exorcisms as you want. Like if you need to have one every day, have one every day. If you need to have one once a week or once a month or once a year, it doesn't matter. Like just do what you got to do. So there's been a few times where I've come in my Zen room, maybe a handful, okay? A handful of times I've come in my Zen room and I just had emotional exorcism. I just cried, I screamed, I just let it all out. But what was so cool about it is because of this purging process, it was cleansing. Like it was cleansing. So because I had my emotional exorcisms and I got everything out, guess what? Like I haven't had to have any more. Like I had them, I got it over with, I got it out of the way, and now I'm cool. Now that doesn't mean that down the road I won't allow myself to have more. Like there's going to be things that are going to hurt me and I'm going to have to do that. But what's cool is you get it out, you purge, you cleanse. And then once that happens and you get that exorcism out of the way, emotional exorcism out of the way, then you can build your resilience. You build your resilience. We're going back to purgatory. So people say, well, Dr. E, how do I become a secure woman? Well, you have to wrestle with your insecurities. Okay? You have insecurity, so once you've identified them, all right, when I say wrestle with them, that means you're going to have to beat them up head on. Okay, head on. All right, so we're kind of at a place here where we're going to be stopping in a minute. So I will pick this up in episode 3, and we're going to be talking about handling your insecurities head on, fighting with them until you become a secure woman and a secure human being. And I hope that helps, and I will see you guys in episode 3. Thank you so much.